Hello friends. I, Ankita Datta, project lead for the Mask series at www.tellmeyourstory.biz, welcome you to the inaugural episode of The Mask Factor. I'm privileged to have with us author Tony J. Selimi this evening, and we are going to discuss a word, an era, a story, and the significance of them all. Tell Me Your Story calls for submissions of short stories and poems on Mask. Also, registrations are open for the writing program season 2 with the story prompt Women's Silence, which is yet another form of Mask. So, let me begin with introducing Tony J. Selimi. Born in 1969 in the town of Kosovo, Republic of Northern Macedonia, Tony J. Selimi went from living homeless and penniless to an internationally recognized TEDx speaker, award winning author, self made multimillionaire, and cognition expert, specializing in human behavior, emotional intelligence, and leadership excellence. He co created Living My Illusion documentary and pioneered several trademarked methodologies in human development to help other people reach their aspirations and dreams. Entrepreneurs, CEOs, global leaders, Hollywood A-list celebrities, and people from all professions consult with Tony to get unstuck, unleash their magnificence, excel in all critical areas of life, and live fulfilled, authentically, and freely on their terms. Organizations seek his expertise to boost productivity, performance, profits, and overall employee well being. Tony is the recipient of the London SME, the Most Visionary Entrepreneur 2020, and has been featured on Sky, ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox, reaching over 100 million people. Welcome, Tony.
Thank you so much for this introduction.
It's my pleasure. To initiate this conversation, I would ask you a very simple introductory question, but that has gained a different importance in the present day. So, Tony, how are you? And how are your loved ones? So, do you personally gain strength by masking your fears, or you are comfortable exposing them to the world?
I actually spent years in hiding my fears and hiding the all of the pains and frustrations that I used to have. And today, I'm an advocate for us speaking our truth, because it is the truth that can heal the body, can heal the mind, can heal the heart, and can elevate our soul. So personally, I'm extremely well. Thank you for the question. And whenever there is a pain, I express it.
That's indeed great to hear, because the world really has become so uncertain today that even a simple "I am fine" that holds prominence. So, talking of such gloom, prevailing all over, there are many people who are turning the narrative with heartwarming contributions that speak of abundance in crisis. So, would you like to recollect any such story from the recent past? I mean, an experience or a person, an anecdote, whatever you feel like prominent.
Sure. I mean, there are many stories in my life that I turned crisis into blessings. And frankly, they are countless, because in every moment we experience crisis. And if we are heightened our awareness and put our focus into it, we can actually observe the blessing that comes into our life. But one thing that I can share with you, especially for the community in India, it's when I was ill. And there are many people currently experiencing the COVID consequences. And there's like many parties involved: the person who's ill, the families of the people who are ill, and the wider community. And sometimes when we have things like an illness, people can experience stigma and a lot of fear and a lot of judgments. And I remember when I was in hospital fighting lifeless, that basically how my mother was treated as a result. And, illness can really destroy one's body and therefore the soul, and therefore depart from this world. But also, it can actually strengthen us. And for me, I actually took tremendous strength and also started my self-reflective journey. And also, it pushed me harder to educate myself. to really learn about why I was ill, why I was living in the society I was living, why all the problems that I observed as a child it's happening, and why people are segregated with one another. And why is it that we are being taught that you are not good enough just because you're some form of belong to some sort of group, a creed, religion, or in separations that basically in our hearts we know we are all children of the same creator that we all worship or we appreciate. So those questions about really finding the secrets to life, the secrets to a happy life, the secrets to a healthy life, the secrets to a better community, better country, better world, started with me from a very young age. So I turned those crises into curiosity for learning about life and then teaching whatever I'm learning to people around the world so they too can overcome adversity.
Wow, that was really, I mean, very, I won't say it's insightful, but very, different from what we as common people would think. So, yeah, sure. Thank you for sharing this with us. And so, Tony, like talking of your recent book, The Unfakeable Code, which is a very inspiring book for self development. Yeah, right. So, it addresses some core existential dilemmas. So where does that basic, human instinct to get affected by other people's thoughts and opinion originate from? I would have a continuing question, and how does that tendency to get affected by others' words transform people?
Well, firstly, it starts from thousands of years, which means a lot of information is passed on through our genetics. And the second part is it passed on through our parenting, meaning our parents. And the moment the baby's first heartbeat happens in the mother's womb is the moment the body starts really receiving a lot of information. And then the third stage is when we come into this world, and which were impacted by the psychology of the parents that we have, because it is that psychology that will be almost imposed on us. And then also the societal conditioning that happens around us, meaning the kind of environment we live, the kind of schooling we have, friends, and the kind of language we consistently learn and we tend to mimic because there's three parts of our brain. Is the brain that really keeps us safe, which is the amygdala. Then is the part of the brain that does the repetitive tasks, which we call it the monkey brain. And then we have the frontal cortex brain. So all of those brains consistently work with you to actually make sense of your reality. And unfortunately, for most people and for all of us, unless we actually turn back into learning how we actually have perceived our reality, we, no matter what information we put on top, it will be filtered according to the programming you received from a very young age. And thus, the perceptions of your reality will be skewed. So, the idea to write the unfakeable code came also when I was a very child because I was considered as a gifted child. From my age 7, I used to repair TVs, radios, and anything electronic without anybody teaching me about anything. So, I used to remember, perhaps some of the elder audiences in this broadcast will remember the times where all the TV sets and all the radio sets and washing machines, they all came with a thick manual that you needed to read in order for you to make sense what that thing means. And the old TVs, we had like remote controls that we had to program it with the TV to make it work, you know. And the idea came to me saying, why we as children, why parents as parents don't have some form of instruction manual that can help us really fine tune the picture of our reality and how we can really better our lives. So the unfakeable code, the idea started during COVID when I saw the entire world collapsing down. And it reminded me going back when I was very young and saying, oh my God, this keeps happening over and over. And what is it that I can do to find a solution for people to not only deal with the aftermath of mental health issues that COVID will leave, but also give them a code and a crucifix by which they can actually take inspired actions every day so they can change their lives. And in that, I synthesized almost like 30 years of my knowledge into a very easy to digest and pragmatical 5-step method. And when people use those principles and ask those questions on a daily basis, they can actually upgrade the codes of their mind from which then their reality follows and changes.
Okay, so taking cue from your own answer, I would like to ask you that your books, as you said, they talk about wisdom, they talk about leadership, they are like a manual, they also talk about loneliness. So, is it like fair to say that you want a world where people lead, happier lives and have the knowledge to take charge of their own choices? I mean, why are other people and the better led lives people they are important for you? I mean, like their better led lives are important to you.
So let's put it this way, every life matters. And for me, no matter who you are, whether you are at the bottom of the chain or at the top of the chain, we are humans after all. And we are basically the same. We come naked, we live naked. So therefore, I don't really separate people on how much wealth they have or how much wisdom they have. For me, we are all having our own journey, and it is up to each individual in the world to turn within and to upgrade their own psychology and their own reality. So unfortunately, most people have been taught to actually look outwardly and compare themselves with other people. Now, there's a grateful element when we compare, because we need to know how, why, and when to change. But it becomes dangerous when we end up creating illusions in that comparison. Meaning, let's say I want to say to myself, I'm the greatest architect, and I want to be an architect, but I never spent the time to study about architecture. I never go to architecture school, and then I end up depressed, expecting myself to be an architect without actually doing the actions required and the investment required for me to become an architect. Or if somebody wants to be wealthy, financially free, a lot of people create illusions around that. They compare themselves with somebody who spent 50, 60 years on building their wealth. But unfortunately, wealth building, no matter who I have met, all the people that, most people, when I was homeless, for instance, would judge people with wealth. But, as I grew myself out of it, as I worked very hard, sometimes 20, 22 hours a day, I started meeting people who did the same as me. So for me, wealth simply represents your abilities. You awaken all of your abilities, and they use those abilities to help other people solve problems. And the more problems you solve, the more wealth you'll create in your life.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. So it's like we should be the better versions of ourselves only. We should not compare each other to like someone else. We should be better versions of our own selves every day. So now taking forward ourselves to the mask factor, let's say that the unfakeable code is a lot about the masks that we don in our regular lives, knowingly or unknowingly. So, how difficult is it to give away that mask and walk bare? Also, is our world, our society, prepared for transparency and lack of pretense? Or to put this in other words, do you believe that absolute honesty is rewarding?
Um, okay. I don't believe in things such as in absolute, because life is not an absolute. Okay, life has its own twists and turns. So therefore, to give you an example, let's say you were to go into a society where they condemn and beat women and rape women. You might have to conceal yourself and become a man in that society for you to survive. And I've had situations like that when people have to conceal themselves to protect themselves. So therefore, in those conditions, to lie, it can save your life. So that's why I don't believe in absolutes. It means it's great to speak your truth. However, if you are in a dangerous situation, you may have to lie to get out of that situation. So I believe having a great balance, but not living a life that is a lie, but living a life that is authentic and wisely choosing how to behave in certain situations. Now, going back to the masks, masks are like our parents. We can't do with them, we can't do without them. And therefore, sometimes you have parents who actually are very bad parents to their children. And then you have parents who are great parents, but their children are bad to them. So, the masks serve us in a way to go back into our true authentic self and on that journey to grow ourselves. But they will always be there. Why? Because it's in our human nature. Just like nature, we keep evolving, we keep changing, we keep building, we keep destroying. Therefore, our different personas that we build over a lifetime will hold on to those masks until your true authentic self sees the truth of who you are. And who you are is basically both. You are the light and you are the dark. You are synthesized in one beautiful energy called love. But unfortunately, none of us have been taught from a very young age to actually embrace both sides of our personas. We've been discouraged from saying something that other people don't agree with you, and then encourage what people agree with you, and therefore creates this tremendous polarization in our psychology. And as a result of that, all the other problems stem from polarized thinking.
Yes, sir, sure. Thank you, sir. So when we are already talking of masks, we did put up a quote on our social media handles today. It was by Alan Walker, and to him, mask stands for unity. So if you ask me, I would say mask stands for somewhere for the elite, for superiority. They had masquerade parties and all. It also stands for the superpowers and the superheroes. Superheroes are never seen without masks. So if then I ask you from that perspective, so what would be the meaning of a mask? How would you frame the words? I mean, the
Yes.
symbolization of the mask.
So you said how women's silence is a mask. And I've
Yes.
seen that in my own family. I've seen that my mom was being abused physically, mentally, emotionally, and basically her silence was a way of actually showing that something is wrong. And as a child, you don't really understand that when your mother is being beaten up. But it was also one thing that actually made me study quite a lot and actually go out there and fight for justice, fight for equality, and promote education as a way of us empowering ourselves, so we actually separate those differences, so we actually together we can build a better world. Now, when it comes to high society, in the Unfakeable Code, I also talk about it, where also another story in here where I was in Venice for the first time. When I saw the first time the Carnival of Venice with people wearing some beautiful masks, and it's like most creative masks that I've ever seen in my life. I suddenly found myself from living homeless to being in this festival, celebrating differences and celebrating people and from all walks of life, and everybody was wearing a mask. And this is where I started thinking, like, how come that those masks that we wear on every day, we don't use them to celebrate life, to celebrate cultures, to celebrate differences, to celebrate equality, to celebrate, gay people, straight people, black people, white people, Asian people. It does not matter what. And this is where also it stood with me until I actually wrote the Unfakeable Code. And there's a story about that in the Unfakeable Code. So, those masks serve us until we are prepared for a greater service to humanity, which is the wisdom and the love we have to give and share with the world.
Yes, sure. So please, now would you tell us one special idea, since you were already telling us about your book, one special idea from the book, The Unfakeable Code, that would specifically be like an idea that you must have felt ecstatic and emotional about in being able to, transfer to your worldwide readers, like something that's beyond a reader's scope.
There is 5 principles in the book, and there are 5 chapters to describe those principles in the book. But I will emphasize the last one because it's the last one that has been with me, and I know has been with every human being since the beginning of times. And the principle number 5 in the Unfakeable Code states, choose love as your only military commander to win every battle in life. And when you think about it, life will always throw us adversity. And when I recollect this principle, actually, it was almost unaware to me, became a principle without even vocalizing it until now, since I was a child, since I saw my family, my mother specifically, being beaten, and she always chose love to deal with all the abusers. And, she always used to calm me down not to judge, not to stop, and saying that they one day will grow up, one day they will see what matters in life. So she always, both mom and dad, always chose love as a way to build bridges and build peace when there was a conflict. And now, unfortunately, for many people, billions of people out there, it is very difficult to choose love when somebody murders your child, when somebody abuses you, when your country is burning, when people are dying everywhere, when there are no vaccines, for instance, and all the problems that we experience on a daily basis. But I do say it is in those moments that those who choose love will become the leaders of tomorrow.
That was amazing. It's really this I will call insightful. Thank you, sir. And with the last question, I would like to conclude today's session. The times are crazy. Today's times are crazy because we thought we had become invincible. We had developed AI and we are at the zenith of medicines. Today, brains and hearts, they are all getting transplanted. We are way too developed in technology. So, but given all of this, a microscopic virus has left us wailing, and we are helpless, we are clueless, and we are hopeless all at the same time. So, this is something that we wish for not to happen again. For this is not a recurring event like natural calamities with zones marked out and high preparedness. We weren't prepared. So amidst all this that is happening to everyone, to the world, let me ask you, what is your primary takeaway from this phase? I mean, I ask this not to an author, not to a life coach, not to an expert. I ask this to Tony Selimi, an ordinary person from that common, miscellaneous, and unpredictable journey called life.
The biggest takeaway for me is why humanity is not learning that there are no differences, that something so microscopic can bring the whole humanity to their knees. And if anybody were to think about it, they will actually create a plan, a leadership plan to unite people and to unite governments and to unite, I would say, all the important people into creating a more better vision for humanity and how we can save lives and how we can use technology as an extension of us in order for us to be able to battle the battles of the future, thus choosing love as a military commander to do that. And COVID is a perfect example that both microscopic level. And if we take that back to ourselves, one thought can have a macroscopic impact in your life. And this is what truly human behavior is all about, understanding how one thought and one idea, one word that somebody tells you can either build or destroy something inside of you. And yourself, with saying or thinking certain words, can actually destroy or build something beautiful.
Thank you so much, sir. I believe from this perfect session, we have a whole new perspective here with us, with you sharing with us the 5 points, the last one especially. So, thanks a lot, Tony. And thank you for this very insightful conversation and also for your time this evening, this afternoon, I would say, for you. So, to everyone, let me put a reminder. Tell Me Your Story calls for submissions on Mask, and registrations are open for the writing program season 2 with the story prompt of Women's Silence, which is yet another form of mask. We hope to hear from you, and till then, let us all try. We can try to stay well, stay safe, and though we are distanced, let's stay together. Good night.
Namaste.
Namaste.